Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on this Thursday morning. Erin just refuses to go away, huh?
That's right. A capricious little cuss, isn't she?
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of weather people are describing her as wobbly. It's just unclear exactly where she's going to hit.
Right. And yesterday we were full of good news, or we thought so, that it came across as it hit the Atlantic coast and wasn't as bad as expected. 2 people killed in its wake, or deaths blamed in its wake, but not extensive damage. But then, as expected, it got out over the Gulf, and it's picking up steam, it seems.
That's right. Now a lot more people worried about it.
Yeah, and it's bearing down on the Big Easy, among other things. We're going to get the latest on Erin in just a little bit later this morning, too, something unusual. We're going to go inside the eye of the storm with some guys who are called hurricane hunters. We'll actually get hooked up with some people from inside Erin and get the inside scoop on her.
Should be interesting. Also, Brian, this is the worst case of evidence collecting and lab testing in the Western world. If the latest witness for the O.J. Simpson defense is to be believed, we're going to talk about what kind of strides were made with his testimony yesterday and if he successfully raised some reasonable doubt.
Some of the names who are with us this morning include Julia Roberts, Cato Kalin, and Jim Fowler with some furry friends.
I know. I'm so jealous you're doing that spot. Baby monkeys and baby bobcats.
Baby bobcats, too, yeah. We have a lot to get to. Before we go to the news desk, let's check up on Hurricane Erin, though. It's being tracked at the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Dr. Robert BURPEE is the director there. Dr. BURPEE, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
What's the latest on Erin? What kind of strength does she have?
Well, Hurricane Erin has maximum winds near 85 miles per hour, and a point in near Panama City in the Florida Panhandle has already reported gusts to 80 miles per hour.
So at the rate she's going, what kind of time are you projecting for landfall and where?
Well, at the moment, Hurricane Erin is moving on a northwesterly course, and if it continues on that course, it will make landfall late this morning in the western panhandle of Florida. If it moves just a little bit to the left and moves back toward the west-northwest course that we were seeing most of yesterday, the landfall would be in southern Alabama or Mississippi sometime this afternoon.
Just how much is the city of New Orleans being threatened?
Well, we think, given the northwesterly course that we're seeing at the moment, that New Orleans is less of a threat than we were thinking late yesterday afternoon and through the evening.
But would get heavy rains, and since it's low-lying, that would cause perhaps some serious flooding.
That's a possibility. Certainly the heavy rains are already moving inland over coastal counties of Florida.
You heard Katie describe Erin this morning, and I'd heard it described elsewhere, too, as wobbly. Can you tell us what that means, why the storm is so wobbly?
Well, it's not so easy to say the why, but certainly we've been observing, even when it was along the east coast of Florida, that the storm was moving right and left relative to the mean path.
All right. Dr. Robert BURPEE, thanks very much for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All
righty, let's go to the news desk now, where Elizabeth Fargus is sitting in this morning for Matt Lauer. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Good morning, everyone. As you just heard in the Gulf of Mexico this morning, it is Hurricane Erin again. And it's bringing heavy rain to parts of Florida and raising concern all along the Gulf Coast. NBC's FREDRICKA Whitfield is standing by on St. George Island in Florida. Good morning, FREDRICKA.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Here on St. George Island, which is just outside of Apalachicola, Florida, all have been evacuated. Strong winds are pushing dangerously high waves towards the Gulf Coast as the eye of Hurricane Erin approaches landfall. The warm Gulf of Mexico gave Erin enough fuel to become a hurricane again. The people of Apalachicola, Florida, thought their city might be the next target. Throughout the night, residents in low-lying areas taped, boarded up, and moved out.
We've mainly just taped up the windows and had flashlights on hand for, light power going out and stuff like that.
On St. George Island off Apalachicola, crashing waves and gusty winds chased residents away. Erin slammed Florida's Atlantic coast with 85-mile-per-hour winds as a hurricane, then skirted across the state as a tropical storm. Forecasters had warned Erin could muscle her way back to hurricane strength. People in the Florida Panhandle have had enough practice to know anything is possible during hurricane season. Already this morning, we've seen downed power lines, some of which have sparked fires. And the only thing on the roads around here is a lot of water.
Elizabeth? All right, thanks, Frederica. The low-lying city of New Orleans could take at least some of the hurricane's punch. With a state of emergency in effect, thousands have already been evacuated. We have more now from NBC's Jim Cummins.
Those who are staying are stocking up on bottled water, canned food, batteries, and flashlights. Cities and towns along the Louisiana and Mississippi Gulf Coast are boarding up buildings. Boat owners are moving inland.
We're pulling the sailboat out because of the hurricane coming. We just dropped the mast. We're going to tire her down and head north.
Even the threat of a storm can be costly for businesses along the Gulf Coast.
We're losing money by the hour. So, you know, we're off the beach now. As soon as the hurricane comes through, they'll tell them what it's going to do, and we depend on the tourism for our to feed our kids and pay our rent and everything else.
In New Orleans, most schools will be closed, and the mayor has mobilized the police, fire department, and National Guard.
We are on full and complete alert.
Another complication. There is a critical blood shortage in southeast Louisiana.
We need donations immediately.
But some people in the Big Easy are still not uneasy about the threat of a hurricane.
Probably a little rain, a little, you know, that's what all we get.
Jim Cummins, NBC News, New Orleans.
In coastal waters, 2 ships failed to weather the storm. The Coast Guard rescued 8 crew members from the gambling ship Club Royale. It was a tough job. Pilots had to hold helicopters steady through wind-blown rain. 3 other crew members are still missing. A tugboat off the coast of Georgia also went down.
Through Pensacola and the Panhandle, winds hit 94 miles an hour. Roofs were blown off, trees uprooted, power lines knocked down. Losses throughout the entire state were told now an estimated $200 million. Erin's force is dying down. She's a tropical storm now, headed through Alabama toward eastern Mississippi. Winds have died down, but still lots of rain and flooding and some tornadoes. Andrea Watkins reports from Pensacola.
John, I'm standing here in one of the neighborhoods hardest hit by Hurricane Erin, the neighborhood of East Pensacola Heights. And you'd never know it, but behind me there are 2 brand new cars that are totally crushed under the weight of this enormous tree. Residents here are breathing a huge sigh of relief. They took a direct hit and still survived. 75-mile-an-hour winds and torrential rain smack the very western tip of Florida's Panhandle. Pensacola's a ghost town while Hurricane Erin rips apart trees, tears stoplights from their cables, and shreds old glories that dare to brave the storm. Residents only seeing tree damage take the level 1 hurricane in stride.
They come through every couple of years. They usually never come through this close, but I guess I'm a little desensitized to it after being here.
Another tree picks the wrong place to fall. World War II veteran Evelyn Frazier salutes her losses. Well, there were no deaths as a result of Hurricane Erin this time around, and the only injuries reported were minor. But the biggest problem right now is the power outages. Most people don't have electricity. Some people don't even have water. And those kind of inconveniences will get old when these people start cleaning up this mess. Reporting from Pensacola, Florida, Andrea Watkins, Fox News. Back to you, John.
All right, thanks, Andrea. Here in our city, as you know, not a drop of rain, but everybody is soaked. The air's so thick. Nick's here now with our first on Fox forecast for you. Nick?
John, it has been that same old story that we've known so well this summer. High humidity, high heat, and it looks like not much change in the short term. This, by the way, is what's left of Erin. It's, again, a weakening tropical storm now in towards Alabama. And the big problem, as you see, is the rain continues, and they're going to be having some heavy rain in the next day or so in the deep south. For us, heat advisory, that's nothing new either. That's up tonight through Friday night. In fact, our overnight forecast indicates some clouds, warm and humid, only 78 degrees coming into the forecast for tonight. And on our satellite picture, thunderstorms are off to the north, but we're still in this hot, sticky air for now. Eventually, these thunderstorms are coming to break the heat a little bit. I'll tell you when in the full forecast coming up a little bit later on the 10 o'clock.
Hurricane first hit land Wednesday morning, pounding Vero Beach, then slowing down to a tropical storm as she cut across Florida. But Erin picked up steam again in the Gulf of Mexico and came back with a vengeance as she slammed into Pensacola this afternoon. Torrential rains turned the streets in the Panhandle into rivers. Winds knocked down signs, trees, and power lines. Pensacola has not taken a direct hit from a hurricane in 69 years. The storm is now sweeping through Alabama. Judy Fortin filed this report from Mobile.
Erin is on her way into northern Alabama at this point, but we're still seeing some effects in the form of very light rain, and every now and then we get a wind gust. Nothing like earlier this afternoon when winds in the downtown area here in Mobile were gusting 70+ miles per hour, and the rain was coming down horizontally. It caused some minor damage here in the Mobile area, mostly to trees and power lines, but nothing like what it did in the Florida Panhandle area. Hurricane Erin hit land for a second time this week, swamping the western panhandle of Florida. Pensacola took a direct hit for the first time in 69 years. The damage was everywhere. Broken roofs, signs, and power poles. Thousands lost electricity. Erin may have taken some people in the area by surprise. Instead of heading west, it turned toward the north, moving slowly at 12 miles per hour. After hitting land, its wind speed seemed to intensify in some areas. As it moved into South Alabama, Mobile began feeling the effects around noon as the storm churned up the waters of Mobile Bay. Residents here were urged to head to one of a dozen emergency shelters. There was a mandatory evacuation of some barrier islands off the coast.
I think at one time it was probably gusting up over 70 miles an hour when this happened here. We took a pretty hard hit, harder than we expected, actually.
It'll be a while before residents along the Gulf Coast forget about Hurricane Erin, but for now they're concentrating their efforts on cleaning up the mess. In Mobile, Alabama, I'm Judy Fortin reporting for News 9 Tonight.
Well, it's 105 tomorrow.